Hi, Jerry Anderson here. You know, I get a lot of emails from visitors to my websites, and by far the most common questions people ask me are about film school. The person writing explains how desperately they want to be a filmmaker, but they don't have access to a film school where they live or don't have the money to afford it. They can just picture themselves having an exciting career as a filmmaker if they could just get that diploma. Well, I'm making this video to clear up some very common misunderstandings people have about film school. I really want you to avoid the one big mistake so many people make when they decide to go to film school to become a filmmaker. Where do I start? Let me explain it this way. If you want to be a doctor, there's a large amount of knowledge and many skills you need to learn. You will need to go to medical school and spend years learning all that stuff. Highly experienced doctors will teach you everything you need to know, and once you've put in the effort and passed all the exams, you will be a doctor and know what you need to know to set up a practice and start making money working as a doctor. In other words, go to medical school, become a doctor. In the same way, if you want to be a lawyer, there's a lot of knowledge you need to acquire, so you need to go to law school to learn it. Instructors with extensive experience in the law will teach you what they know, and once you've finished the courses and taken the exams, you will be a lawyer. Law schools also often help connect students with law firms where they can work as interns and after they graduate get hired on as full-time lawyers. So a law school can both teach you what you need to know to be a lawyer and help set you up with the contacts you need to find work. In other words, go to law school, become a lawyer. So what about film school? If you go to film school, don't you become a filmmaker and make a lot of money and hang out with beautiful movie stars and party all night and become famous? Do you really think life is that easy? I'm now going to tell you a big secret that film schools don't want you to know. In fact, film schools hate me for what I'm about to tell you. Film schools make huge amounts of money from naive students who believe, even want to believe, that paying a lot of money and spending years in film school will get them anything but a huge student loan that will take years to pay off. Listen to what I'm about to say very carefully. Going to film school has almost nothing to do with becoming a filmmaker. In fact, going to film school could be the biggest mistake someone with talent and wanting to be a filmmaker can make. Now, every time I say this, you can't believe the hate mail I get from film school administrators. They accuse me of rocking the boat and spoiling young people's dreams. But I'm not willing to be part of their lie. And you don't have to believe me. Just ask around and find some people who've gone to film school. They're around. Folks who fell for the big lie and paid a lot of money and ended up with nothing. They'll tell you what a mistake it was. Ask the film school you're considering how many of their students they place in the film industry, and how many of them are making good salaries a few years later. They don't want you to ask that question, and you won't get a straight answer. So what's wrong with film schools, and why is film school any different than law school or medical school? You're asking, don't I need to go to film school to learn filmmaking skills? Well, being a filmmaker isn't a single job like being a doctor or a lawyer. Making films is a collaborative effort that requires many people using many skills. To make films, you need screenplay writers, producers, directors, actors, cinematographers, set and costume designers, and on and on. They're all filmmakers, but they do very different things requiring very different sets of skills. But now you're saying, I want to learn how to use the latest equipment and be taught by top experienced filmmakers. Well, even the best regarded and most expensive film schools in the United States typically teach using equipment that's decades out of date, and not at all what is being used in Hollywood. What you'll see is that most of the students will typically own equipment that is more advanced than what the school has. And what about the top experienced filmmakers who are teaching? Well, All the best working filmmakers are too busy making films to teach at film schools. The hours are too long and the pay is too low to make it worth their effort. If you go to New York University Film School, one of the top 3 film schools in the country, I assure you, you will not be personally taught by Martin Scorsese. You are going to be one student in a large room with many other students being taught by someone who maybe once made a documentary film 10 years ago that never got distribution, and he's never done anything since. He's still waiting for his grant to come through so he can make another documentary. I'm not making this up. That's a fact. A few years ago, I had a conversation with the dean of one of the smaller but highly regarded film schools in California. In the course of the conversation, I discovered that he had never made a film himself, not even a short. He had never worked on a professional film set. Even though he was the head instructor for screenplay writing, he had never actually completed a single feature-length screenplay. That's the quality of teachers you're going to have. The fact is, amongst most working filmmakers, a film school diploma is considered to be pretty much a joke. With a film school diploma, they might consider you qualified to work in the mailroom or to be a secretary. What will convince working filmmakers that you have what it takes to work with them is you being able to show them a really entertaining and well-made movie that you created yourself. Most film school students will graduate having not made even one film, much less one good enough to impress filmmakers who are hiring. Here's the truth about the film industry. Hollywood doesn't hire people with degrees. Hollywood hires people who've done good work lately. Several of the top film directors have said you can learn everything you need to know about filmmaking in a few weeks. Robert Rodriguez says you can learn it in 10 minutes. Now listen to this. To make a film, you don't actually need to know all the various skills involved in filmmaking. You really don't need to know any of those skills. You can hire people to do all those things, and you can hire them cheap. You can find lighting experts with their own lights, sound experts with their own microphones and mixers. I've put together entire crews of filmmakers, most of whom were film school graduates, along with union actors who all worked for me for free, just for the opportunity to be involved in making an interesting film. That's a fact. So now you know the big secret about film schools. So, if you're still wanting to go to film school, first of all, watch this video again and keep watching it until you are convinced that film school is not a magic bullet that will do anything but waste a lot of your money or your parents' money and waste several years while you avoid actually getting on with doing something useful with your life. I'm sorry, sometimes the truth is a little uncomfortable. Are you feeling discouraged about wanting to be a filmmaker? Should you give up your dreams? Not at all. Not for a minute. Start watching for my next video where I outline some real alternatives you have available for becoming a filmmaker. And all of them will cost you less and take less time than going to film school. Until then, happy filmmaking.